It's 11:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. You're exhausted. You just finished a brutal day of meetings and you're lying in bed, doom scrolling. But every third post is some 22-year-old standing next to a matte black sports car talking about how he made $40,000 while eating breakfast. He shows the screenshot. He shows the graph going up. And for a split second, your brain breaks. You look at your own bank account. You look at your 401k growing at a staggering 7%, and you don't just feel broke, you feel stupid. You think, is the system rigged, or am I the only one who didn't get the memo? I lived in that headspace for 3 years. I bought the courses, I followed the systems, and every single time I fell flat on my face. But I wasn't failing because I was lazy. I was failing because I was looking at a data set that had been surgically altered to lie to me. You are suffering from the single most dangerous psychological trap in finance. It's called survivorship bias. And it's the reason why following a proven system is usually the fastest way to go broke. Let me take you back a few years. I was about 26. I'd managed to scrape together my first real savings, about $10,000. It felt like a fortune, but I knew it wasn't enough to buy freedom. So, like everyone else, I went online looking for answers. I found a community of day traders. These guys were incredible. I'm talking about a chat room where every single morning people were posting wins. $500 profit, $1,200 profit. Just quit my job thanks to this strategy. The logic seemed bulletproof. If I see 50 people making money using Strategy X, then Strategy X must work. That's just evidence, right? So I did what any rational person would do. I paid $997 for the course that taught Strategy X. I set up my monitors. I funded my account with $5,000 of my hard-earned savings. I followed the rules exactly. I entered when the lines crossed. I exited when the indicators flashed. First week, I lost $400. Okay, I thought, learning curve, totally normal. Second week, I lost $800. Now I was sweating. The chat room was still full of people posting wins. Great day, another green week. I started to panic. I reread the course materials. I watched the videos at half speed to make sure I wasn't missing a detail. I was doing exactly what they said. By month 2, I was down $3,500. My account was bleeding out. I remember sitting in my kitchen, staring at a bowl of cold oatmeal, feeling this heavy, crushing weight in my chest. I felt shameful. I didn't tell my friends. I certainly didn't tell my family. I thought, everyone else is winning. Why can't I do this? I must be broken. I quit trading that day. I took my remaining $1,500 out, put it back in my savings account, and licked my wounds. I walked away convinced that I just wasn't smart enough. It took me 2 more years to realize that I wasn't the idiot in the room. I was just a victim of invisible data.
Here's what I didn't see. In that chat room of 2,000 members, maybe 50 people were posting their wins every day. They were the loud ones, the survivors. But where were the other 1,950 people? They were silent. They were losing money, feeling exactly the way I felt, ashamed, confused, and quiet. Eventually, they would blow up their accounts and leave the chat room, only to be replaced by new hopefuls. The evidence I saw was a lie. I was looking at a graveyard, but I could only see the people who were still alive. This is survivorship bias. It's the logical error of concentrating on the people or things that survived some process and inadvertently overlooking those that didn't because of their lack of visibility. The most famous example of this, and you might have heard this, but stick with me because the application to your money is terrifying, comes from World War II. The military was looking at planes coming back from battle. They were covered in bullet holes. The wings, the tail, the fuselage, Swiss cheese. The generals looked at the planes and said, we need to put more armor on the wings and the tail. That's where they're getting hit. It makes sense, right? Reinforce the damaged areas. But a statistician named Abraham Wald stopped him. He said, "No, you're looking at the planes that came back. The planes that got hit in the engines and the cockpit, they didn't come back. They crashed. The bullet holes you are seeing are the ones a plane can survive. If you armor the places with the holes, you are armoring the survivors. You need to armor the places where there are no holes, because that's where the fatal shots strike." When I first heard that story, it hit me like a truck. I realized my trading career was exactly like those planes. I was studying the guru who came back. I was studying the billionaire investor on the magazine cover. I was studying the guy with the Lambo. I was looking at their bullet holes, their habits, their strategies, their morning routines, and trying to copy them. But I wasn't looking at the thousands of people who did the exact same things, took the exact same risks, used the exact same proven system, and crashed and burned.
Let's apply this to the financial advice you see every day. We love stories of the college dropout who put his last $1,000 into a risky crypto coin and is now a multi-millionaire. The media loves that guy. He gets interviewed, he starts a YouTube channel, he sells a course on how to spot the next 100x opportunity. And when you watch him, you think, okay, the strategy is find obscure coins, bet big, and hold on. But for every one guy who made that bet and won, there are 10,000 guys who made that exact same bet on a different coin, lost everything, and are now working double shifts to pay off their credit cards. You never hear from them. They don't get interviewed. They don't write books titled How I Lost My Rent Money on a Dog Coin. History is written by the victors, but financial data is distorted by the survivors. This creates a dangerous illusion. It makes high-risk behavior look like a reliable path to success. You look at the survivor and think he took a risk and got rich. Therefore, risk leads to riches. No. He took a risk and got lucky. The other 99% took the risk and got crushed. But because the crushed people are invisible, the risk looks safe. I once worked with a guy, let's call him Dave. Dave was obsessed with a specific famous tech investor. You probably know the type. This investor made bold, aggressive bets on unproven companies. Dave decided he was going to invest just like him. Concentrated bets, he told me. Diversification is for idiots. Dave poured his portfolio into 3 high-growth, high-risk tech stocks. For a year, Dave looked like a genius. He was up 40%. He was walking around the office telling everyone they were dinosaurs for buying index funds. Then the market turned. The interest rates went up. Those speculative companies got hammered. Dave's portfolio dropped 70% in 6 months. The famous investor he was copying, he survived. He had billions in other assets. He had management fees. He could afford to be down 70% and wait 10 years. Dave couldn't. Dave needed that money for a down payment on a house. Dave sold at the bottom. The guru strategy worked for the guru because he had survivorship capital. It killed Dave because he didn't.
It's not just risky trading, though. This bias is baked into the boring, safe financial industry, too. If you go to a bank or look at a mutual fund brochure, they love to show you these charts. Average annual return, 10% over the last 15 years. They show you a list of their funds, and they all look pretty decent. Even the bad ones aren't that bad. But here is what they aren't telling you. Let's say a firm starts 100 funds in the year 2010. Over the next 10 years, 40 of those funds perform terribly. They lose money. They underperform the market. Do you know what the firm does? They don't keep them on the list. They close them. They merge the losing fund into a winning fund to bury the bad track record. They quietly delete them from the database. So, in 2024, when you look at the list of funds available, you are only looking at the winners. The losers have been erased from history. Studies have shown that if you actually account for the funds that died, the failures, the average performance of active investing drops significantly. You are walking through a forest, seeing only the tall, strong trees, assuming that the soil is perfect. You don't see the thousands of saplings that died and rotted away into the dirt. So you buy the fund thinking success is the norm, and when it underperforms, you're shocked. You shouldn't be. You just bought into a data set that lied to you by omission.
Now, this is the part that might sting a little, because survivorship bias doesn't just distort our view of luck, it distorts our view of effort. We are told constantly that hard work pays off. We see the billionaire who says, I woke up at 4 a.m., I took cold showers, I read a book a day, and I never gave up. And we think, okay, if I do X, hard work, I will get Y, success. But this is a logical fallacy. I'm not saying hard work isn't necessary. It is. You can't win without it. But looking at a successful person and saying they worked hard, therefore hard work caused their success, is dangerous. Why? Because I know plenty of people who wake up at 4 a.m., take cold showers, and work 2 jobs just to survive. They work harder than any billionaire I've ever read about. If hard work were the sole predictor of wealth, construction workers and nurses would be the wealthiest people on the planet. When we only listen to the biography of the winner, we hallucinate a causal link. We think the specific things they did, the quirks, the routine, the specific risky business decisions, were the cause of the success. Often, they were successful in spite of those things, or simply because they caught a lucky break that the other hard worker didn't catch. I fell into this trap hard in my early 20s. I read every biography of every successful CEO. I tried to engineer my life to match theirs. I optimized my sleep, my diet, my reading list, and I felt incredible anxiety because I wasn't seeing the results they promised. I felt like I was putting the inputs into the machine, but the machine was broken. It wasn't until I relaxed and realized that a huge component of their success was right place, right time, and right network, variables I couldn't control, that I actually started making progress. I stopped trying to be a billionaire and started trying to be a competent, solvent person. Ironically, once I stopped chasing the outlier results, my finances actually started to improve. I stopped buying lottery tickets, literal and metaphorical, and started buying probability.
So how do we fix this? How do we stop bleeding money chasing ghosts? You have to learn to see the invisible. You have to train your brain to ask the question, where are the losers? Whenever you see a financial claim, a strategy, or a guru, I want you to run it through 3 filters. This is the system I use now, and it has saved me tens of thousands of dollars.
Ignore the specific story of the person in front of you. Ignore the anecdote. Look for the base rate. If someone says, I made money flipping houses in this specific neighborhood, ask yourself, what is the success rate of all people who try to flip houses? If the base rate of success is 10%, and this guy succeeded, he is an exception. Do not treat his advice as a rule. Treat it as a lottery report. If the base rate of success is 80%, like say buying and holding the S&P 500 over a 20-year period, then you can treat that as a rule. Base rates are boring. They're not sexy, but they are reality.
If you tried a new strategy, whether it's drop shipping, options trading, or investing in a specific sector, actively look for the failures. Don't Google how to make money drop shipping. Google why I failed at drop shipping or drop shipping horror stories. Read the stories of the people who did everything right and still lost. Why? Because that is where the real education is. The winners will tell you they won because they were smart. The losers will tell you exactly where the landmines are. When I was looking into real estate investing a few years ago, I spent a month just reading foreclosure forums. I learned more about risk in those forums than I did in any How to Get Rich in Real Estate book. I learned about bad contractors, surprise tax reassessments, and tenant nightmares. And it didn't stop me from investing, but it meant I went in wearing armor. I knew where the bullet holes were actually going to be.
Beware of result-based analysis. Just because a strategy worked once doesn't mean it was a good strategy. If I bet my life savings on roulette red 32 and it hits, I'm rich. I'm a genius. I can write a book called The Red 32 System. But it was a stupid decision. In finance, you have to separate the process from the outcome. If you made money doing something stupid and risky, you didn't win. You just survived. And if you keep doing it, the law of averages will eventually bury you. Conversely, if you make a smart, calculated decision, like having an emergency fund or diversifying your portfolio, and you lose money in the short term, you didn't fail. You experienced variance. Sam's rule. I would rather lose money using a smart process than make money using a stupid one, because a smart process is repeatable. A stupid win is just a trap waiting to snap shut on you next time.
I know this might sound depressing. I'm basically telling you that a lot of the success you see online is a mirage, and that copying winners won't make you win. But I actually think this is the most liberating thing you can learn. When I finally understood survivorship bias, the shame went away. I realized I wasn't broken. I realized that comparing my chapter 1 to someone else's survivor highlight reel was a game I was designed to lose. It freed me to stop looking for the secret. There is no secret. There is no magic system that the gurus have and you don't. There's just probability, risk management, and patience. Once I stopped trying to find the one weird trick that made the other guys rich, I started focusing on the boring stuff that actually works. I started spending less than I earned. I started buying boring index funds. I started increasing my income skills rather than my gambling skills. And you know what? It worked. Slowly, painfully slowly at first, but then momentum kicked in. I'm not a billionaire. I don't have a Lambo, but I also don't have that pit in my stomach at 11:30 p.m. anymore. I don't stare at the ceiling wondering if I'm stupid. I know I'm on a path that doesn't require luck to work. And that, to me, is what being rich actually feels like. So the next time you see a 22-year-old guru screaming about his 10,000% returns, don't envy him. Don't buy his course. Just remember the airplanes. You're looking at the one that came back. You aren't seeing the thousands of others burning in the ocean. Stay safe out there. Don't armor the survivors. Armor yourself. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.